Well, g'day there. It is Tara here from CamelConnection.com and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, welcome for the first time. Not such a nice title, for this episode, but hey, we've got to share this information with you. It has come to our knowledge certain things about what is killing our domesticated camels, and it is time to tell the story on what is going on with our domesticated camels. So we're here to share that information with you today, and we can't wait. By the end of this, we know you're going to be way more educated on how to care for your domesticated camel. Let's dive in.
Whether you're a camel owner, wannabe camel owner, or simply an adoring camel fan, you're in the right place for some fun, useful, and interesting camel talk. This is the Camel Connection podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Tara.
And I'm Russell. Join us here for fun learning about camels, how to care for, train, and handle them. Plus, insider stories and interviews.
And also some interesting stories of our lifestyle with camels, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the very funny.
Make sure you've subscribed now so you don't miss out on an episode.
Now, some of these podcasts are an audio take of our video, so be sure to check those out on our blog for lots of how-to visuals and, of course, lots of camels.
This is your one and only go-to podcast, all about camels.
Owners, lovers, and educators, over the years we're always searching for the latest and greatest information on camels so we can educate ourselves and also pass that information on to you too via this podcast, our virtual camel school, and our Camellia Academy membership. Although there are moments when we are kicking ourselves and our heart aches and we just wish we knew better on how to care for our camels outside of their natural desert environment. So take this episode as a passionate, heart-filled one, coming from a place of anger that this kind of information isn't more readily available, and from a place of confusion as well of the conflicting information, amen if you're hearing me, on camel health and wellbeing and veterinary care. It can get hell crazy out there with conflicting information. So we're gonna dive into this. There's a few things we're gonna cover first, and then probably a quarter way through this, we're really gonna get into the content of this. So stick around. You're going to learn a lot in this episode. So there's one thing that we know we have learnt more so in the past 2 or 3 years is to stop listening to the backyard advice on caring for camels. And the advice that we have received in the past is, on the most part, actually outdated or only suited to certain circumstances. For instance, camels in their natural environment. We say this because we've seen way too many preventable camel deaths from so-called unknown illnesses. We are just so tired. We started the search for accurate and precise and educated camel advice. We wanted to have the know. We wanted to have somebody with this skill. And it's taken years in the making. It's taken trial and error too, unfortunately. And in the meantime, we've actually tried to serve you at our absolute best and educate you with the best advice possible. Camel care advice, in this case we're talking about. Also with a few amendments in between those writings and tellings, because information can change quickly, especially when science is involved. But with camels industry standard, there's not a lot of science, there's just a lot of backyard advice. So we're going into the science today. So you are going to be educated. Yay, camel educated. The message is simple. If you take an animal from its natural originated environment, that animal, in this case the camel, is going to need special care. Camels can't be expected to live and eat like a horse, a cow, a goat, even other camelid species like alpacas and llamas. Camels are Well, they're camels, completely and solely their own or big, their own little big biological makeup that is uniquely unlike any other species. They're related to other camelids, yes, but again, unique on their own as a species. So if if you're listening this far, if you're reading, well, you're reading because there's a transcription as well. Here's the thing that we assume about you. That you, like us, are passionate about camels and care deeply about their well-being, and or you're really invested to hear what it really takes to take good care of your pet or future pet domesticated camel. So today we are bringing you excellent information on camel health and well-being specific to domesticated camels that will set you and your camel up for a happy, long life, minus the heartache. So much heartache out there with, camel well-being and health and getting it wrong. I can't tell you how upset that we get seeing other camel owners on certain Facebook groups share that their camel has passed away due to 9 times out of 10 a worm issue, parasites, when this type of thing is completely manageable. In other words, it's preventable with the right care and procedures. So now I'm not saying that these owners aren't doing the absolute best with what they know. Of course they are. But why, oh why, does this remain such a common issue of camels dying all around the world? I'm not just talking about Australia. This happens everywhere from a very preventable thing. Well, I think it comes back to the lack of information on the camel, and therefore camel owners are always guessing how to care for their camels rather than actually knowing. This is not a statistical fact. This is just an observational fact that the number one killer of domestic camels worldwide is nasty squirmy worms, in other words, parasites. Yet parasite control in camels is very preventable under the right guidance and procedures. You might be thinking, yeah, well, Tara, I doubt something as simple as worms is a number one issue with domesticated camels. Well, we bet our lives on it. Just because you can't see them, it doesn't mean that they're not there. And I know it's not nice as a camel owner to think that your camel might have worms or anything, you might have worms, anything on your property will have worms. That's not a nice thought. But we have to face the reality here that they are part of a life and a life cycle, and there's an ecosystem involved as well. And here's the thing is that most vets are actually trained to know that it's safe for large animal breeds such as horses and cattle, etc., to have a small worm burden. But it's not like this for camels. So that's what you'll be learning today. In short, we're going to cover the basics, how to prevent this number one killer of domesticated camels, and this includes your camel or your future camel. So keep listening. We've got some amazing information coming up from you. We've been so lucky over the past 3 months. Dr. Margie Bale, a dedicated camel vet from Australia, has been educating our Camellia Academy members, we'll talk more about that membership later on a parasite control program that they can easily implement. It's in-depth, yet so simple to understand, and Russell and I remain with our minds blown on the information that we now are armed with, not only to share with you guys, but to implement within our own herd of camels. Honestly and knowingly, we know for a fact we could have prevented camel deaths in the past within a small herd if we had the knowledge we now have. So that is a powerful statement coming from us, and we're passing this on to you now. This is knowledge that you can now have. Now it's time for all of us camel owners to move on, from our heartache, from our past experiences, from the conflicting information and all the stuff, and actually take responsibility for the fact that we own an exotic animal and that 99.9% of them are not in their idealistic natural environment, and we are to start with their specialist treatment that they so deserve, since they give us so much. that's the least that we can do for them. And, you know, this is the fact here, is there is no industry standards for keeping domestic camels. So it's actually up to us as the camel owners to take the responsibility into our own hands, and to eventually there will be a camel husbandry standards worldwide. That's the plan. But that's only going to happen if us camel owners take on that responsibility. And here's the other thing. There's actually no reason now why you as a camel owner shouldn't know this information about parasite control in your camels. So don't turn a blind eye. We did for so many years, thinking that something as small as a worm couldn't cause such big issues. Wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. All domesticated camels at one stage in their life will have a worm burden. It's a reality that we have to face and to live with when we have a foreign or exotic animal and we domesticate them. It's just you take something from its normal environment and put it in another environment. You know, things are going to happen that wouldn't normally happen if they're in their natural environment. And you'd know by now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while or know of us, we care deeply about camels, and we don't want the camel or yourself as the camel owner to suffer unnecessarily. And trust us when we say that we've had times of reflection when we know that if we knew better, that we could have saved some of our own camels within our own herd. If we had have known better, we could have done better. Now we know better. We're doing better. Now, also remember that a large percentage of camel health issues are parasite related, and that a camel will often not show any symptoms for months or even years. Who knows? I'm not a scientist, but, you know, like that's, again, there's no actual scientific studies on this. Why don't they show symptoms right away? Because they're a survival animal. If they've got a worm burden or parasite problem they're going to fight it, and they're going to no, it's all about survival. I can't show any symptoms. It's the fittest of the fittest, you know, the survival of the fittest here. So they've got this survival mechanism that unless something drastic happens in their life, or even something as simple as a seasonal change or move into a different area or move into a different home, then they might start going downhill and showing symptoms. Okay, this is why you can't compare camels to other animals when it comes to this sort of issue. And not to mention that there are camels that are actually super shedders. So these are the camels that are less susceptible to worms. And then you've got the opposite camels that are very prone to worm problems. So, you know, you're starting to get an understanding of how complex this can be, yet we have some simple fixes for you here. And hopefully in this episode, you're going to take that away. So are you guys ready? I mean, are you ready to take this journey with us and become that knowledgeable camel owner? You know, let's get this, take this scientific information that we have and put it into practice, because we now can, and we're about to share with you on how you can do that. So let's dive in. So first we're going to start, how do camels get deadly worms and how do you identify them? Okay, so this is actually a part 1 of 3 of our camel parasite control program, which is in the Camellia Academy membership. So this is actually a sneak peek on what we covered in the last 3 months. We've been going over this parasite control program. And at any time, you can get full access to this Camel Vet Talk over at, get ready, camelconnection.com/membership. Okay, so parasite worms, or otherwise known as worms. I like to choose parasite because, I don't know, it's worms. I like worms. Earthworms are fine. Parasites, not so much. Parasites in camels are such a common issue and cause of some big health issues in camels. We're not just talking about it's so complex. I'm racking my brain trying to think of how to explain this best to you. If a camel has parasites or worms, then it's going to cause other issues. It's going to cause massive imbalances in their body. Okay, and I can't go into detail in it here, but in our Camellia Academy membership, we do go into detail on how having even a small worm burden can cause so many things to get out of balance with your camel and then cause more problems. Okay, so let's get back into it. Did you know that not all parasites or worms are made equal? I don't know, did you? I suppose I didn't in the long term. They have their different, so the actual parasites have their different survival mechanisms, which can really harm our camels. If a camel has a parasite or worms, it can put their entire digestive system out of balance, and therefore the imbalances in the entire body, including other important organ functions, just all go out of whack. But we understand that you, as the camel owner or the want-to-be camel owner, we don't like to think about worms. They're yuck. They're disgusting. See them under a microscope, yeah, they're a bit yuck. See them in feces, super, super yuck. But this is a reality we have to face, as I covered before. And this is why our domesticated camels are getting such high worm burdens and dying from it. So camels were evolved to never have to overgraze their areas of grazing or browsing. So in the process of us camel owners and generations and whatever, domesticating our camels, we are making them more susceptible to them getting worms. In a wild situation, a camel might not graze certain areas until months, if not years later. So they might be grazing in December and they don't get back there till 12 months later. So you can kind of get an understanding of why we're having so many issues with our domesticated camels worldwide dying from simple fixes, preventable things like worms. This is why it is so super important for us as camel owners to learn about parasites in camels, because guess what? This stuff, no one's teaching this really except for us, us as in, our Camellia Academy membership, which includes Dr. Margie Bale, who's a camel vet. But it's so important for us to educate ourselves on this. I'm going to say that a lot in here because I am very passionate about caring for animals the right way, and I also get very annoyed when there's not a lot of information out there on how to do that. But that's what we're here to fix that for you. In short, we'll do our best anyway. And we need to learn, obviously, how to control the problem, the parasite problem, and how to treat it. Even simple things like, I'll give you a gold nugget right now, is a lot of people recommend to use a pour-on, like a pour-on drench for camels. Guess what? It doesn't work on camels. It's not effective for camels. So anyway, that's further down the track. We can talk more about that. What I've just explained, this is in the first part of this parasite control program, we talked about how camels get deadly worms. And Dr. Margie Bale, who's a camel vet, talked us through and showed us slides on how we can start managing this worm problem that we have with all domesticated camels. So we learned about the dangerous parasite, the actual dangers that parasites can cause to camels, the symptoms that camels show, if any, sometimes, and how to identify those certain parasites. We also talked about how to actually, if camels aren't showing a symptom, what to do, how to actually, because often they don't, how we can actually know whether they have worms or not, which was incredible information to have and behold. So we are getting educated. Our minds are blown. And then we moved on from how to identify and, why and how camels get these dangerous worms. Little things like, one little sucker of a worm, like you couldn't even see it with your with a naked eye, can suck like 5 mils of blood from your camel a day. And therefore the camel would have anemia. And you see it all the time. We see it all the time with camels. Like, oh, my camel's not doing well. They have anemia. They've had bloods. They've got, low this and low that. And often it's just a parasite problem. So often when people go, oh, my camel's sick, it's like, well, have you tested for parasites? We're going to get into testing soon. So part 2 of the video, like we did a video tutorial on actually how to do a fecal egg float test for your camels. You can either DIY it or simply give it to your local vet so they do the correct one. So part 3 was actually, part 3 was the safe and effective treatments for deworming your camels and what actually works, because we need stuff that works. Okay, the resources that were included in this first part of the, how camels get dangerous worms, was we included a parasite egg identification printout, like how to, if you're DIYing urine test or the likes of that, then you can print this out and have a look at that, and symptoms and all that sort of stuff. If your camel's got a symptom, you can refer to this printout and go, oh, my camel's got that. Okay, they might have that worm. And also a printout on, if you want to do urine testing, which we'll get into right now, on all the equipment that you need to do that, and a video tutorial. Okay, so part 2 of the part 2 of 3 of the Camel Parasite Control Program was and is in the Camellia Academy membership, the Camel Fecal Float Test. This is something you can DIY or show your local vet. This is the correct test that camels need in order to identify whether they have a parasites and or worm burden. Same thing. Parasites equals worms. So let's just stick with that. Again, this is just a condensed information on what we went through in the membership. We can't cover it all here. This is something that you have to take responsibility and go through it yourself if you so choose to do that, which we hope you do, because we think this is invaluable information and that every camel owner needs to be educated on this, because, like I said before, nobody's been educated about it, on an industry standard, I suppose you could say. So again, you can head over to camelconnection.com/membership, take a look there on what you get. Now, so we've learnt, after we learnt about the dangerous worms that camels can get, it's really important, like so important. This is okay, let's just say this now. Stop the guessing game. Stop assuming that camels have worms, because it does several things. One, if you drench them and you don't know that they actually have worms, or you don't know that the parasites that they have, because there's a million different varieties, you're possibly creating a resistance problem, which means that the worms don't give a shit about what chemicals you put towards them. They're just going to keep doubling and doubling and doubling and doing their thing and trying to survive. So this is when we went into the correct way to actually test your camel whether they have worms or not. So it doesn't matter if you want to DIY this, or you want something visual to give to your local vet to replicate this testing, then this is a perfect resource for you. It covers the correct and most accurate way to test your camels for parasites. We sort of suggest in the academy, if you only got a couple of camels, like 1 or 2, and then, just send this test to your vet and get them to do it. But if you've sort of got a little bit of a herd happening, it would be cheaper for you to DIY your own testing, or, if you're really strapped for time and all that sort of stuff, again, you can just send it off to your local vet, and they can just follow the instructions and off they go. That's what we did here with our local vet. I printed out the instructions for the proper test. She did it. She said it was easy. It was very easy for her to follow, and we got the results that we needed. So, again, this comes with, if you choose to DIY it, we have a resource of, because to DIY it, you need a whole pile of equipment, not expensive equipment. It's pretty cheap setup. We have it here, and we're doing our own testing. And we include the Parasite Egg Identification printout, because, of course, if you're looking down the microscope and going, what the hell's that? You got to know what it is so you can identify what exact parasite that your camel has. I really enjoy the process. It's sciencey. It's, something different. You're looking at poo all day. It's interesting. Why wouldn't you? But I know it's not for everyone. That's why we created this printout that you can just give to your vet, and all the instructions are there. And they have done, all vets have done a lot of training in parasite identification, so they'll know what they're looking at. And then part 3 of the Camel Parasite Control Program within the Camellia Academy membership. I want to be clear about that. This is a paid membership, monthly membership, sort of like Netflix, but like a Camel Flix, where you learn all about camels. So to put it simply, this is part 3, and this again is a sneak peek on what we covered. And at any time that you want to get full access to what I'm trying to jam pack into this one episode here, you can just go over to camelconnection.com/membership and see all the details there and what's included in the membership, and truly hope that you sign up. I mean, we are here to help. We are here to help educate you about camel wellbeing, training and handling, and there's a whole pile of information in there that you just cannot find anywhere else. You really can't. I mean, it's all there. It's your camel library. Okay, so in order to keep our domesticated camels healthy, we need to make sure that they are parasite-free. Simple. They need to be parasite-free. Having the correct medication and procedures in place will be the only thing that helps our camels thrive on the long term. So many times I've had people say to me, "Oh no, my camel's healthy, they seem healthy." What does that even mean? Like, I know we get it. There's an intuition thing, but, I can't, use my intuition to know exactly what parasites they have. Like, that's just beyond me. Maybe you can do it. I can't. So I need to know what's in there, in their body. So again, most vets aren't trained to know that it's actually, most vets are trained to know that it's safe for large animal breeds, again, such as horses and cows and stuff, cattle, to have a small worm burden. But it's not like this for camels. I'll say that again. It is not safe for camels to have a small worm burden, but it is for other large animals. Again, I'm not a scientist, but that's from what I understand. And the thing about camels is they're very susceptible to parasites as soon as they are removed from their natural environment, which is 99.9% of all domesticated camels, as pets or otherwise. I mean, a very small percentage of us actually live in the desert with our camels. It's as simple as that. So this, what I'm about to cover now, this is part 3 of the Parasite Control Program. And in this Camel Vet Talk, Dr. Margie Bale explains how you can get rid of your worms, not your worms, your camel's worms, obviously, burden for good. Even if you think you don't have a worm issue, you need to hear this management protocol to keep it that way. That's the important part. The Camel Vet in the Camel Vet Talk, we cover the essential things that you must know as a camel owner, because currently there is no industry standard, and you, the camel owner, are the one responsible of informing your vet on the differences that camels have compared to other large animals. That's why we created the Camellia Academy. We are our local vet. We're educating them on the differences of camels and other species, and we've questioned and bounced back and forth, and they've been most welcome our feedback and advice. And we make it very clear. You guys know the medicine, we know camels. And we just bounce off each other that way. And that's our job as camel owners. And there's no reason why you shouldn't know this information about parasite control in your camels. And you need to know it if you're a camel owner, because there is no industry standard. So again, don't turn a blind eye to all this. All domesticated camels, that's your camel, at one stage in their life will have a worm burden. And that's a reality that we need to face and live with, because we have these exotic animals and we've domesticated them. And we don't want you and your camel to suffer unnecessarily, So remember, a large percentage of camel health issues are parasite related, and that a camel will often not show symptoms for months or even a year, possibly years. I don't really know the science behind it. And I will say again that some camels are super shredders. So you can put two camels side by side, have them grazing together, have them housed together and all that thing. One camel never has a worm burden. The other, or very rarely has it, or very low count worm burden. And then the other camel will have a really high worm burden. And the owner will go, well, and then, the one with a really high worm burden will pass away because maybe it wasn't treated. And then the owner go, well, why didn't the other camel get it? It's like comparing people. You can't compare the individual as such. Like there's a basis and a foundation of this camel knowledge and camel vet knowledge. But then at the end of the day, you have super shedders, not shredders, super shedders, those that are less susceptible to worms, and the opposite, the camels that are more prone to worms. And naturally, if you're breeding camels for milk production or food production or whatever, you want to breed with the super shedders, those that are less susceptible to worms. There you go. I give you that gold nugget. That's the line you want to start breeding from. So included in this Camel Vet Talk is we created the perfect solution for you for your record keeping of your camel's health. So we actually give you like a spreadsheet that you can download and start keeping health records, because guess what? No one else will for you. You've got to do it. And this, you'll gain an understanding on how important it is, how important this record keeping is after listening to this Camel Vet. Like it's almost like everything, because anyway, I can't get into it here, but it is, I've realized we've got record keeping now. We sort of had it, we did it very loosely in the past, but now it's like, nah, everything's very strictly recorded. So in this Camel Vet Talk about controlling, like actually drenching camels and deworming them, we cover things like you've got to know the problem. You've got to have a grazing management plan. You've got to have certain paddock preparation, a certain data collection, certain times to actually test your camel, and the drenching and deworming products that actually work. Now, it sounds like a lot, like, geez, I don't have time for all that. We've made it really, really simple for you. It's sort of like click and it's done for you. So that's what we do in the Camellia Academy membership. We all have busy lives, and our job for you is to actually create these, like, okay, we give you the information and then we give you the how-tos, and then it's like, here's click and it's done for you sort of thing. All you've got to do is just some simple things along the way. Of course, like any animal you get, you're going to have to, care for its health and well-being. So you kind of signed up for it anyway, just like we did. So, and we also include a really cool parasite control program, Flowchart. So I'm a very visual person, and I'm like, okay, it's one thing to listen and read, but I need something visual that maybe I can pop up on the wall so that I can start controlling this, parasites on the property where our camels are, or on your property where your camels are. And, if you don't own a property, this is still relevant to you. If you're existing on someone else's, this is more so relevant to you. So I created a little, colourful flow chart so that things can make more sense. So again, you can watch the video and or listen to the audio and download all the notes to everything that I've covered just now. In the Camellia Academy membership. Our aim here is to serve. And even though we offer a lot of free advice here on the podcast and on our YouTube channel, through tips and education about camels, through all the different platforms that we use, our best value is no doubt in the Camellia Academy membership. And to date, that is probably the thing that we are the most proud of. And this is all just a taster on what we have to offer in the Camellia Academy membership. It's been our vision to create an academy for camel owners and lovers just like you since that day. I think it was like 9 years ago, when me and Russell were sitting on a fence post in the desert. The day, I think it was a day prior to heading out trekking with camels and camel trekkers. And I asked Russell, so what really is your vision for this business moving forward? And our relationship was really fresh as well. So, I was very curious about what he had going. And the first thing he said, no one has ever asked me that. I'm like, well, let me be the first. But it also didn't take long for him to reply. He said, I want a Camellia Academy, a place where camel owners can come and be educated about these amazing animals. And that just planted a seed for me. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And here we are. Maybe not the $1 million brick and mortar institute that Russell had in mind, but even better, a platform accessible to absolutely everyone in the world to educate themselves about camels. We would absolutely love for you to come and join us in the Camellia Academy membership. There's absolutely nothing for you to lose, as you can cancel your membership at any time. We've made it affordable for everyone at only $37 a month at a founding members price, because this academy is a new thing. So come on over, take a look-see on all the things that you can get in the membership, including direct support and mentoring from us. So you can ask your questions at any time as you go along and get them answered. And you can guarantee that the advice is professional, and especially if it's vet related, it will be scientific based. None of this backyard advice anymore. So come and join us over at camelconnection.com/membership. Have a look what all the value you get, and we just can't wait to have you in there and share all this information we've shared with you now, and plus heaps more. There's a library of camel information readily available to you right now. Thanks for tuning in. We've so loved that we can have this platform and share this information with you, and we really look forward to helping you further within the Camellia Academy membership. camelconnection.com/membership. See you there.